First, tonight's sports headlines.
Good evening, I'm Josh Shilkeman. This update's brought to you by Cornerstone Bank. While times seem uncertain, Cornerstone Bank is here for you and your financial needs, just like they have been for the last 138 years. When times are difficult, there's no place like Nebraska. Bank on a solid foundation. Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. More news out of the chaotic world of college football today as the Big 12 Conference announced their official plans to play this season. The Big 12 Board of Directors and Athletic Directors had separate meetings yesterday before releasing a schedule today, which will feature 9 conference games and 1 non-conference game for the 10 schools. That one non-conference contest can be scheduled for either September 12th or 19th, with the Big 12 slate set to begin on September 26th. Some Major League Baseball scores this afternoon. The Diamondbacks lead the Rockies 13-7 in the bottom of the 7th inning. The Cubs are up 1-0 on the Indians in the bottom of the 1st. The Royals lead the Reds 1-0. That game just underway in the bottom of the 1st inning. Coming up here in just a few minutes, it's the Yankees facing the Braves. Also a 6 o'clock first pitch between the Twins and the Brewers. And at 8:40, it's the Dodgers hosting the Padres. In the NBA today, one final already. The Pacers down the Rockets 108-104. The 76ers lead the Raptors 25-13. 3.5 minutes left in the first quarter of that one. Coming up at 7 o'clock, the Thunder will face off with the Heat, and it's an 8 o'clock tip-off between the Nuggets and the Clippers. In the Nhl Playoffs, Eastern Conference first-round action. Final from earlier today, the Bruins down the Hurricanes 4-3 in 2 overtimes. Boston leads that series 1-0. And Western Conference first-round action, the Coyotes and Avalanche 0-0 late in the first period. Live inside the Husker Sports Network studios, I'm Josh Shilkeman.
Your state, your team, your show. This is Sports Nightly.
Adrian gets the snap, holds it, looks, sets, throws, pass caught, Wanya, first down. It's on the 20, 15, shoots the defender, 10, 5, touchdown, Nebraska. Wandale Robinson's first touchdown as a Cornhusker.
Now, let's check the pulse of Husker Nation with your hosts, Greg Sharp and Ben McLaughlin.
Well, a little quieter day today, thank goodness. That thing wore me out yesterday. There was so much in there. The emotions were just running hot yesterday for a lot of people. In fact, it was all quiet on the Nebraska front today. No official statements, which surprised me a little bit, coming from either Bill Moose or Ronnie Green or Ted Carter. You knew you wouldn't hear from Scott Frost today, but you thought maybe something would come out from there today. It was not all quiet on the national front, as it was like open season on Nebraska football for wanting to play college football. For wanting to play games, Nebraska was just, it was like a piñata. Like Nebraska was hanging from the ceiling, and these guys from Feinbaum to yesterday Wilbon, just taking shot after shot at Nebraska. Desmond Howard saying that Kevin Warren ought to be looking any way to kick their out of the league. I mean, it was baffling to me, Ben. I mean, Nebraska wants to play football, and they're getting creamed by these people for being, I guess, disloyal, that they didn't kiss the ring of Kevin Warren yesterday. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's pretty confusing to see. I don't understand the backlash, and I will never understand it, especially considering that there were multiple other teams in the league, big prominent members in the league, that vocalized their same feelings as Nebraska. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Iowa, all on the same day that Nebraska had the press conference with Scott Frost, said they want to play football as well. And I'm beginning to think that a lot of the people that spoke on that, Desmond Howard, Michael Wilbon, I mean, all of those people that spoke on that didn't even listen or pay attention or even have any idea what came out of Nebraska's camp, because there was this narrative that Nebraska wanted out of the league, that they should be kicked out of the league, and all because of, and there's no possible way it could be because of the statement that they put out, just vocalizing their disappointment of the Big Ten's decision. I mean, it was a pretty mild-tempered statement that Nebraska put out yesterday. No way it was vicious, and no way it was threatening, and no way it was demanding, and no way it was violent or volatile or hostile toward the Big Ten. It was just voicing their disappointment. And so, yeah, I think the entire national barrage was unwarranted, unsolicited, uneducated, and I think the fact that Ohio State had their head coach today, and Ryan Day, make public comments about them wanting to still play in the fall, I think put a lot of things in perspective, that Nebraska cannot be your scapegoat in this situation. The metaphor I've been using all day is like, there's a bunch of students that are mad at a teacher, or there's a bunch of employees that are mad at their boss for the same reason, and they all agree that, either in class or in a meeting, that they're going to say something, they're going to stand up and vocalize their displeasure with this person of power. So that person does, and then everybody else that said that they're with them sits on their hands and doesn't say anything just to protect their reputation and let the other person bear all the weight of talking up to or speaking up to the person of power. That's what it feels like today. But then having Ohio State come out and have comments from their head coach, I think, puts a lot of validity into what Nebraska is saying or doing. But there's been so much venom spit at Nebraska's program today, from the college football game day account, from the college ESPN's college football account, poking fun at Nebraska with a GIF, and then a very professional tweet 20 minutes later saying how Ohio State's feelings are of it, and basically just inserting a quote and not a demeaning GIF. And then you've got fans all across the country that are using Nebraska's lack of success in recent years as a point to, we should just sit down and shut up. I mean, why does that have anything to do with it? Just because we're more passionate than you are doesn't necessarily mean, and our record isn't necessarily as good, doesn't mean that Nebraska's not allowed to have an opinion or vocalize it. But everything was completely blown out of proportion today. I think every national member of the media that either tweeted on it, made a public comment on it, was on TV about it, was ill-informed and uneducated on what actually happened or what was actually said. All of it was unnecessary.
There were fans that were saying, time to leave this league. Absolutely. But do you go after fan bases? You should. If you're a national commentator, you can't go after fan bases. You need to go after the people that are in charge and the people that are making the public statements for Nebraska. And Scott Frost didn't say anything different than Jim Harbaugh did, that Ryan Day did, that James Franklin did, that Kirk Ferentz did. And then the difference would be that Nebraska's post-announcement of the Big Ten canceling was critical of, and said, we didn't agree with this decision. We think we can safely play football, and we will explore some options for that. They were the only one that did that. So maybe that extra step, but, man, it should not have gotten the fervor that it did for people. I think if you were a college football analyst, you would applaud somebody that wants to play the sport, not belittle them and beat them in the ground with the fact that they're trying to fight for their student athletes to play a sport that they've been working so hard for all summer long to get ready to play, and feel like they've checked every medical box they could possibly check to keep this thing under wraps here in Lincoln and to play. It was absolutely baffling. I said fans were talking about maybe jumping. Tom Chattel, the lead columnist of the Omaha World-Herald, also wrote a column about this is really going to put a strain on the relationship between Nebraska and the Big Ten, and he may be right. It could, particularly the way the national media jumped on the back of the Big Ten. The story yesterday shouldn't have been what Nebraska, how they reacted to it, Ben. The story should have been squarely on the shoulders of the inept comments made by Kevin Warren yesterday, and how the word salad that he made of every question asked of him by Dave Revson. That should have been the story yesterday. Instead, the arrows get pointed at a school that wants to play football.
Yeah, and it didn't really seem like Kevin Warren or the conference was brought up until the Ohio State party spoke out. I mean, yeah, all of the targets, all of the lasers were on Nebraska really until that happened. And ever since that happened, it's been people have backed off.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me, and Pat Forty of SI just put out an article today that I'm kind of going through the article, basically saying that Nebraska is in the category of unwarranted entitlement. Like he quotes in the story, "Who cares what Nebraska thinks? If you're unhappy making this much money, go pack up and go to another conference." It's what did they? He even admitted in this story that Nebraska, Penn State, and Ohio State all said the same things, but for whatever reason, this league that is so prestigious on unity and togetherness and prestige, Nebraska is sure not being treated like that in the last 48 hours. And I don't know why the national media feels like Nebraska is the one that needs to take the brunt of this, conversation. But you literally have three of the bigger programs in terms of fan base following and passion in your league speaking out on this. It's courageous for the other two, and it's entitled, it's ungratefulness, it's spoiled, it's all of that. Just Nebraska's the expansion team that got put into this league, and let's treat them like that. Not much unity, shown Nebraska's way today or yesterday, and it's pretty disappointing.
And give me a break that, okay, well, Nebraska because Nebraska hasn't been very good for a while, they don't deserve the right to speak up. Has Michigan been any good? I mean, you tell me, what's Penn State really won? I mean, really? I mean, they've been good. They've been better than Nebraska the last few years, but up until, they had the Sandusky stain on their university, and nobody was calling for them to get their out of the league. I mean, it's just crazy that Nebraska gets browbeat for saying they want to go play football. It was really, really puzzling. Dirk Chapman of the Omaha World-Herald is going to join us here in a couple minutes. I'm anxious to get his take about how Nebraska has just been slapped around in the last 24 hours for saying they want to play football and believe they can do it safely, and for some reason that has become an ultimate sin of everybody in the country.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I just want to read a couple of quick excerpts from this article that was just posted on SI.com. This is, of course, Pat 40. For those that have Twitter accounts and want to go read that and share, Pat, your thoughts, go ahead. Nebraska's carping falls in the category of unwarranted entitlement. Like, who cares what Nebraska thinks? You're unhappy making $54 million in media rights as the 9th best football program in a 14-team conference? Please go. Pack up your John Deere and hit the farm roads out of here. So that's what Pat 40 seems to think of the Huskers. What did they say that was so bad, and what did they say that, that I don't get it. I just don't understand. And
I don't either.
And then to start throwing insults at our fans about getting in a tractor and getting on the farm roads out of here. That's real professional there, guy.
Ben, in the last 3 days, the ACC has reaffirmed that they're a go. The SEC is a go. The Big 12, as Josh had it in the ticker earlier, they're a go. And Nebraska's just saying, we want to play too. We would like to play. And yet they have just been creamed by the national people. It's baffling to me what has happened to Nebraska in the last. And you're right, it has quieted down, although 40's story just got posted there. I mean, Dennis Dodd in his story from CBS Sports.com earlier today, he went down the whole Big 12 path, and he was quoting Chattel's piece, and the Big 12 would take him back, and that's not been a good fit from the start. And again, I don't know how we jumped from like point A to point M in this thing. We skipped a whole bunch of steps in this whole thing about, Nebraska's out of the league. No, they never said that. It's just, crazy stuff. All right, if you have some thoughts about this, 531-500-4686, 531-500-4686. If you want to dial us up with a comment or question, that same number doubles as our U.S. Cellular text line. U.S. Cellular, the official wireless provider of the Cornhuskers. And we do have some people that have texted in and said Nebraska does need to put out a statement and say that they're sorry and kiss the ring and apologize. I think there'd be Husker fans that might be mad at the administration if they did that at this point in time. Let's start with some phone calls. Let's stay in Lincoln. Ed, you begin us off here tonight. Good evening.
Yeah, the reason I'm calling in, we need to circle the wagons. I was listening to ESPN Sports, and I know there's other people out there that probably were at 5:15, and there was a national sports writer on basically saying Nebraska is at the bottom of the barrel in the Big Ten. They're not a national blue blood. They're not a national brand anymore. And the Big Ten doesn't even want them there because Nebraska misrepresented themselves when they came into the Big Ten. And this was on ESPN Sports 1480 at 5:15 today. And I was just taken back that a national sportscaster would say those things. Are you aware of that?
Well, that falls in line with what everything we've heard today. Appreciate it. Thanks for the phone call. It falls into line with everything we've been hearing from everybody else today. And I guess because we haven't had success in the last 5 or 6 years that we're no longer relevant. I mean, we still have 5 national titles. We still have 3 Heisman Trophy winners. We still fill up our stadium, unlike a lot of places in the country, Saturday after Saturday. We're still a big draw on television whenever we get put on television. But I guess because we haven't won in a few years, we're just and really what difference does that make? I mean, if this was Purdue saying we really want to play, I mean, I don't know, Ben. It's crazy, Ben. And no, those comments don't surprise me. That's what we were hearing all day long.
Yeah, I don't really care, Ed, what other people are saying, to be honest. I don't care, what the person you were listening to says or what any national people say. I mean, Pat Forty in that article that we were just referencing thought he said the Big Ten commissioner has handled this well. I mean, I just don't know under what rock people are living in, and the shots taken at Nebraska just don't make any sense to me. And I don't care how many followers on Twitter they have, how long they've covered college football. I don't care what lens they're through. It doesn't matter to me, and I would love to debate that with every single one of them as to what Nebraska did that was so out of line and why it's okay for Penn State and Ohio State to speak their mind, and it's not okay for Nebraska to speak their mind. I don't understand that. And for everybody out there in the national media that thinks Nebraska is no longer relevant, the sellout streak would like to have a word with that. The fact that even though Nebraska hasn't had the on-field success, ESPN put them on College Game Day last year. If they were an irrelevant program, why would they want to be in a national spotlight? Why? What's the draw? What's the illusion? What brings a national talk show and the biggest pregame show in the country to Lincoln if they're no longer relevant? There's a countless other examples that would prove to the contrary, but people decide that they've got their articles they need to write, they've got their clicks they need to get, and they've got the comments they need to get. So that's the way I interpret it.
It was either last year or 2 years ago at the Big Ten Media Day, and it was a national writer going from coach to coach to coach talking about the declining attendance in college football, and got to Scott Frost and threw the question, and Scott kind of chuckled and said, yeah, not really an issue for us. We've sold out every seat since 1962, and I don't think this reporter knew that, and almost kind of called him on it, and he said, well, go check the record books. We don't have an attendance problem. We have incredible passion for our football program that spans the globe. Husker fans are all over this country. But again, I guess since we haven't won in a while, the national media feels like we've fallen off. I don't know if do they handle USC the same way? They haven't won much in the last 7, 8, 9 years either, but I wouldn't think they would handle USC in that vein at all. All right, plenty to talk about here tonight. We're going to get some thoughts from Dirk Chatelain of the Omaha World-Herald, so don't go away. Come on back. Wednesday night, our hump day edition of Sports Alley here on the Husker Sports Network. Hope you had a good day today. Things were much quieter today, except for all the loud noise being made by the national people taking their hatchet to Husker football for wanting to play. Strangest things. Kind of like when Nebraska goes on probation for having too many textbooks, so crazy stuff. Glad to welcome on board the program Dirk Chatelain of the Omaha World-Herald. I hope this phone call finds you doing well, Dirk. Good evening.
Good evening to you. This everything we talk about will change in the next hour, so enjoy it while it lasts.
Probably so. It's been a little bit quieter today outside of the noise from the national people just coming after Nebraska for, I guess, wanting to play more games. What have you made of the reaction from the national media back toward Nebraska in the last 24 hours?
Well, I hope that having covered this for 15 years, people recognize that I don't, jump to Nebraska's back in every situation just because they're Nebraska. So I don't consider myself a homer, but I sure have a hard time understanding what's going on. I understand people's, sort of joy in Nebraska's struggles over the last 10 to 20 years, based on, the tradition that Nebraska had. There's just going to be some natural I guess, mocking when a program like that goes through struggles. But I don't really understand what's happening in the last 36 hours, because this seems like more than that. It's, as you said, it's basically a school protesting because it wants to play football, which if you're some of these, especially if you are a football player like Desmond Howard, I have a hard time understanding how he would find mockery in that, because I'm pretty sure that if Desmond Howard was running a Big Ten football team, he would probably feel the same way. So it's very strange. I think one of the things that I have a hard time with is I don't know why schools are so beholden to the conference's authority on this. I mean, if the state of Nebraska says you can play, if the NCAA says you can play, if your school officials say you can play, why is the conference, the branch of government, so to speak, that gets to veto all of that? And, the fact that Nebraska would have the audacity to essentially raise its hand and ask that question, I just don't understand where everybody's coming from. So there's obviously some pent-up frustration over the years because of Nebraska's supposed arrogance, and I'm not going to argue with anybody about that. But the idea that you're out of line because you have expressed your desire to play essentially what everybody else is wanting to play also, which is competitive athletics. It's a real head scratcher.
Jim Harbaugh said essentially the same thing. So did Ryan Day, and Ryan Day even doubled down today, saying they're exploring every option. James Franklin, Kirk Ferentz. Was it the statement Nebraska put out after the announcement that it was canceled that maybe got everybody's ire up? You think it was the second statement, not so much Frost's comments on Monday, but the statement that was released yesterday? Was that the straw, do you think?
Well, I think Frost's comments sort of put Nebraska, between the crosshairs. And then the statement afterward sort of confirmed, the defiance or the protest. Frankly, I would have a hard time staying quiet if I were Nebraska, watching and listening to what's happened over the last, 24 hours, because I think that it's, again, it's been somewhat inappropriate. The opinions that have come out from really prominent people, not just journalists, but former players, and all you got to do is all you got to do is Google Nebraska football or Scott Frost right now, and it's pretty eye-opening what comes back. But so I don't know. It's like you just said, it's not that far off of the way that Ohio State feels, for instance. I think Nebraska's status as a newcomer that has not, lived up to its billing over the last 10 years in the league is part of it. But, I think it also goes back to probably even farther than that for some people. There's still some angst for the run of success that the program had for 40 years before that. And I'll be honest, Greg, I mean, and again, I don't consider myself someone who jumps behind Nebraska in every situation, but if I were Penn State or Iowa or one of these other coaches or schools that surely feels the same way, I would have a hard time just saying, you know what, Kevin Warren's going to handle this, and the school presidents are going to make this decision, and we're just going to be, we're going to swallow our pride. That seems pretty unnatural for guys of their accomplishment to sit back and just defer like that. So the whole thing has been pretty surprising. I've got a column coming out here which kind of expresses some of this, but I do think, I guess one way that I think it's a little bit different than some people, I do think this is something that can be salvaged. I mean, I don't think Nebraska is so far off the conference, outside that they can't come back. I mean, I think it's a repairable situation, but I do think that, it's going to have some lasting impact. I'm sure that it's going to make some school presidents and even athletic directors and coaches pretty upset that Nebraska didn't fall in line. But I don't think this is something that, ruins a school's relationship with a conference completely.
Dirk Chatlin's with us in the Omaha World Herald. You can read his work online at omaha.com. What do you make of the commissioner's performance yesterday and just how he managed the last 7 days from the release of the schedule a week ago today to the pulling of the plug yesterday? How do you grade his performance?
Oh, I think probably a C. I have some empathy for him because he's, walking into a position that is a really, really tough situation, and he's doing it without the long track record that Jim Delaney had, for instance. But I think that he needed to do a better job, not just in transparency and communication, but I think one columnist wrote, that I read this morning that, he needed to make a case. He needed to make a stronger case for why they were doing this. It wasn't enough to just sort of dodge and explain, basically to get through an interview with Dave Revson. He needed to make a case for why this was the right thing to do. And I'm not going to criticize anybody based on, immunology or the science of it. But I just think that, the Big Ten could have handled this in a way that made everybody feel a little bit better about why they were doing what they were doing. Because I just, based on the last 7 days, it didn't seem like they understood why they were doing what they were doing. So typically transparency is better, and I didn't feel like the Big Ten offered a whole lot of that the last week.
Yeah, I mean, the term I think he kept using, just too many obstacles. That's kind of was his go-to phrase, I thought, during the interview with Revson yesterday. And it's interesting because the medical experts we're hearing from around the country are all different. The guy at Duke says we're good. The people at Stanford are saying you can do this. And the Big Ten's just saying our medical people say there's too many obstacles, and UNMC's part of that. And I think your publication has tried to reach out to those folks. I don't know that you've had any success in them answering your calls back, but they're also the ones that are kind of have been advising Nebraska. And Nebraska's stands is so strong that they can make this done. It just seems like we're all over the map, Dirk, on what these medical people are saying, and I don't know that anybody has a handle on it.
Well, and I guess the instinct that, that I had probably 48 hours ago now, however long it's been, is I just have a hard time believing that, these athletes are in such peril. And I understand it's a contact sport between athletes, from 500 to 1,000 miles apart, and there's obviously risk with that. But is it riskier than the other campus activities? Are these guys not going to be out, at a party on 28th and, Vine Street? Are they not going to be in classrooms and labs where, they're right next to other students? Are they not going to be at bars and restaurants and churches? And it seems, again, arbitrary to me. That's been my problem for most of this pandemic, is it feels like the things we focus on are so inconsistent. I'd be very supportive if everybody was in line and the university said, we can't do any of this safely, but it just feels like everybody's picking and choosing their spots about what they're going to focus on and what they deem as safe versus unsafe. I told this story to Gary, a week ago, Gary Sharp, but I was out in Colorado, and you're hiking on trails in the Rocky Mountains, and every time you pass somebody on a hiking trail, you lift up your mask, and then at night everybody goes to a restaurant and sits and eats a restaurant for 2 hours with 50 other people. It's like, what are we doing here? So that kind of feels like what we're doing with the Big Ten and athletics right now. So that's a long, rambling answer, and it, I think, underscores my own personal uncertainty with everything. But I just have a hard time believing that these guys are safer basically being on their own than they would under the guidance and supervision of a major Division I athletic department.
All those activities you laid out, they're going to be doing that now. I mean, they may not have been doing a lot of that if they were competing and having to practice and study film and get ready for a game, but they're certainly going to be doing it now. And I think that was Scott Frost's push all along, was that, and even Nick Saban echoed that earlier this week, that they're safer in a structured environment of a sport than they are if we just turn them loose and let them go out there. I'm with you. I think that's why so many people are confused and baffled and bewildered by all this, is because some of it isn't very logical when they're trying to use logic on it. It's crazy. So what time can we see your piece hit the online version? You want to?
I'm not sure when they're gonna post it, but it makes the case that Nebraska should be the one to make decisions in the best interest of Nebraska and not the Big Ten Conference. So. I think that is a fairly, I think if everybody looks at that issue honestly, I think that could be, a fairly substantive debate. Should the Big Ten be able to prohibit a school, or should it even be interested in prohibiting a school from creating competition for itself, even if it's outside of the auspices of the Big Ten Conference? If the Big Ten doesn't want to sanction competition, if they don't feel right about this, if they want to say to schools, you know what, you're on your own, we're not going to hold official Big Ten competition this fall, but we understand your economic situations, we understand what this means to your schools, and therefore you're on your own to play football or volleyball if you like. You can schedule Kansas State, you can stay within your region, you can even drop down and play other divisions because these are extraordinary circumstances. I think the Big Ten, if it's doing right by its member schools, would want to have that conversation. And instead, we're just basically everybody is rallying around, the official power structure here and laughing at everyone who protests or suggests otherwise. And I don't think that's, right by the schools, and I certainly don't think it's right from a substantive debate standpoint about what's best for not just the schools, but also these communities. I mean, obviously you're not going to put 90,000 people in Memorial Stadium no matter who they play this fall. But to assume that, losing an entire football season has no economic impact or has not enough economic impact to consider extraordinary circumstances, I think is really out of touch. So I don't know. I just wish there was a little bit more honest debate about the right thing to do, and I wish that debate was more transparent than it's been the past week.
Yeah. Dirk, great stuff. Appreciate it. Thank you. Stay healthy, and I don't know when we'll see you, but look forward to the days we're back at press conferences.
Yeah, these Saturdays in the fall are going to be rough. I'm going to be honest. So
yeah, they are.
Hopefully we can find other things.
No doubt. Thanks, Dirk. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Dirk Chatelain with us on our Sports Nightly Hotline, brought to you by the Woodhouse Auto Family, bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you. Let's get to the phones. A lot of folks wanting to talk with us tonight. Head up to West Point first, and Pete. Good evening, Pete.
Good evening. How you doing?
Doing so well, Pete. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I just wanted to bring up a couple points, I guess. But the first one is, if the ACC and the Southwestern Conference and the Big 12 pull this off and have a football season in the fall, it will set the Big 10 Conference back for probably 10 years or longer. The recruiting side of it, the money side of it, you name it, it is going to be devastating. And I just don't understand. I think part of this is political, and I know people don't want to go there, but I think part of it is. I think COVID is going to be not talked about too much by the first of the year. As far as the heart enlargement, my understanding that the common cold virus and the flu virus can give the same condition. So I don't think we have a lot of information on the health, so we could actually understand why decisions are made, and therefore we question and we don't understand. So I'll hang up and listen to your comments.
Thanks, Pete. Great to hear from you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I would agree with just about everything you said there.
Yeah, we talked about it last night. The heart condition, and it's a serious thing. You have after effects if you have influenza, if you have strep throat, and now apparently if you have COVID, you can have heart issues. Doctors have been dealing with this very issue for decades. And to throw that in there and say, well, this is the last straw, that's just looking for a way to exit stage left, and I think that's what the Big Ten did here. I had one guy today tell me, and to kind of accentuate what Pete said about setting the league back 10 years, I don't know that I totally agree with that, but one guy said it's going to turn the Big Ten into a mid-major with big stadiums. Yeah, we'll see. I know Ben, Ohio State lost a 4-star commitment today. Kid decommitted from him today. Said, I'm going to go somewhere where football means something. So right there, you got an instant reaction. Let's go to Omaha and Sean. Good evening, Sean. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hello. I'd like to say one thing is there's been more kids at every level killed traveling to and from a practice or a game. Airplane crashes, bus crashes. And the other thing I have is, why couldn't any team like Nebraska, Ohio State say, because they're still allowed to practice. Kids are still practicing. We're just doing an exhibition or an inter-squad game.
Yeah.
That's what I have.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the phone call. Yeah, I mean, that's a road that I'm not really comfortable going down. Just, probabilities of what may happen in statistics in other areas. I mean, that's for some people. I just don't know that it's necessarily prevalent. It's not necessarily wrong. What you're saying is not wrong. Obviously, there's facts to back it up. There's so many areas going on here. That's just not something that I want to touch. But in regards to your other comments, there was a Husker player today that says, I don't care if we have to play red-white games against each other every week. I just want to play. I mean, I don't know I don't understand the purpose of having these kids work out 20 hours a week. Work out for what? Put your body through what? If it's not safe to play football, it's not safe to play football. If we're gonna take it away, take it all the way away. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, that was kind of laughable to me yesterday when they came out and said, well, they can still have the 20 hours a week and do, work with their coach. I'm like, for what? A season that may be 12 months away from now? I mean, what's the motivation for those kids? I mean, spring practice for a lot of them is pretty methodical because they know there's not a game at the end of the tunnel. To do it now when you've pulled the rug out of them, I just don't get why that would be possible. We've learned a lot about this virus in the last 4 or 5 months, and we know that it attacks the senior citizens in our society for the most part. The kids, the younger people, are not all that big at risk, and I think that's why you're seeing so many athletic competitions taking place right now. That's why you saw summer baseball going on across the country. That's why there are a lot of states that are going to try high school football. We've had a Shrine Bowl already in this state. We've had several Shrine Bowls across the country that have taken place. We've had Husker baseball players playing all over the country over the last couple of months. So we've had kids competing in a lot of different things. You've got the NBA going on, the NHL, and I understand those guys are getting paid, but like the Husker baseball players weren't getting paid to go play in Tulsa or Hastings or up in the Northwoods leagues. I mean, there's just so much of that going on, and you're welcoming students back. I'm moving my daughter in tomorrow to a dorm on UNL campus. She's excited, can't wait. But we're moving all those kids back in there, but we can't play college football. There's just a lot of mixed messages in there. All right, that's my soapbox. You got something there?
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, until I actually hear these medical professionals that both sides are alluding to, for and against, I'm not going to hear from people that it's either safe or unsafe. I mean, we've got medical professionals from all sides, all angles, all parts of the country advocating for both. And so people in my Twitter mentions, phone calls into the show, texts into the show, whatever, I mean, until we actually see it, how do you know? I mean, if medical professionals are torn and that are studying this every day, all day, are on opposite sides, how can you actually say for sure that it's either safe or not safe? I don't think if they can't, then I don't think any of us who aren't experts can.
Yeah. All right. 531-500-4686, the number if you want to dial us up with a comment or question. Back to wrap up the hour next on the Husker Sports Network. Let's get back to the phones as we wrap up the hour. Up to Omaha. Jonathan, you're up next. Good evening.
Hey, question. Do you think everything that's happening right now puts Kevin Warren on that kind of like Rob Manfred level of just not having respect and everyone questioning him? And two, why is everyone hating on Nebraska for wanting to play football, but no one's talking about, Ohio State or Penn State wanting to do the same thing? Those are just my questions for you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. You've really, the last few nights made me, your takes just make me laugh. I just love it. I think there are a lot of people that are really sour on Kevin Warren, just like you. I think there are a lot of people that think what he did was a joke, and I said yesterday, and I'll continue to say, this is the biggest thing that'll jump on his lap as a commissioner, and he botched it so bad he could get the next 20, 30, 50 situations right, but I don't know that very many people are going to be able to look past what he's done the last few days and rebuild that reputation. I really don't. And the only, to your second comment, I think the only thing, Greg, and you sound off on this too, the only thing that I think the national media has against Nebraska is this idea, this Nebraska smugness, arrogance, any chance they get to kind of stick it to the Huskers, I think they want to take. And to go along with Dirk said, I think, a lot of it too is angst that Nebraska was dominant for so long. You always want to slay the giant, and in some people's eyes, Nebraska will always be a giant, and this is an easy time to kick them while they're down.
Yeah, let's go to Cortland next. And James, good evening. James, welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hi. I guess I had really just more of a comment, because one of the things they seem to bring up a lot is Nebraska's lack of relevancy and why we would make such a big thing. But doesn't it mean we're relevant, the fact that everybody's talking about us constantly? Indiana or Iowa or Illinois would have said this, would even be a news story. And if it's the fact that we're a new kid on the block, I'm pretty sure Maryland and Rutgers could jump up and down and say these same things. I don't think nobody even know about it. So I think it just kind of proves that we are still relevant, because they sure seem to talk about us a lot.
That's a dang good point, man. Callers are on the ball tonight, on the money tonight. Yeah,
it's Josh being there answering. Austin flubbed it last night. Josh is rocking it tonight. Great takes by everybody. On our text line, Sherry out in western Nebraska, I fully support Coach Frost. I support letting these young men play ball. I have faith in Coach Frost's organization to do it safely. Our nation needs to quit hiding, use some common sense, and get back to living life. Sherry, appreciate you dropping that into us. Also, Wyatt in Alma, Nebraska cannot apologize. That is the absolute last thing Husker fans would want. The people of this state are resilient and always try to persevere. Good stuff there. Our What Else Auto Family Hotline brings you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is What Else. Good hour here on Sports Nightly.
This is Husker Sports with Sports Nightly. First, tonight's sports headlines.
Good evening, I'm Josh Shilkeman. This update's brought to you by Cornerstone Bank. While times seem uncertain, Cornerstone Bank is here for you and your financial needs, just like they have been for the last 138 years. When times are difficult, there's no place like Nebraska. Bank on a solid foundation. Cornerstone Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. More news out of the chaotic world of college football today as the Big 12 Conference announced their official plans to play this season. The Big 12 Board of Directors and Athletic Directors had separate meetings yesterday before releasing a schedule today, which will feature 9 conference games and 1 non-conference contest for the 10 schools. That one non-conference game can be scheduled for either September 12th or 19th, with the actual Big 12 Conference slate set to begin on September 26th. Some Major League Baseball scores, games in progress. The Cubs lead the Indians 4-0 in the bottom of the 5th. The Royals up 2-0 on the Reds in the bottom of the 3rd. The Braves and Yankees tied at 2 in the bottom of the 2nd. And the Twins out to a 6-0 lead on the Brewers in the bottom of the 3rd. Coming up a little later on tonight, the Padres are on the road against the Dodgers. In one final from earlier today, the Diamondbacks outslugged the Rockies 13-7. A few NBA scores as well. Earlier today, the Pacers down the Rockets 108-104. At the half, the 76ers are up 62-55 on the Raptors. Here in a few minutes, tip-off between the Thunder and the Heat, and also later tonight, 8 o'clock tip-off between the Clippers and the Nuggets. Live inside the Husker Sports Network studios, I'm Josh Hilkeman.
Your state, your team, your show. This is Sports Nightly.
Adrian goes under center this time. Mills, the deep back. Turn and toss it to Mills up the left side. He's to the 10. Stiff arm to man. 5 dives. He is in. Touchdown, Nebraska. Dedrick Mills finds the end zone from 14 yards out.
Now, let's check the pulse of Husker Nation with your hosts, Greg Sharp and Ben McLaughlin.
Time to have some fun. Been pretty heavy around here the last couple of days. We're going to have our face-off coming up here in a few minutes, and then we'll check in with Lane Grindle, our Major League Baseball insider, unbelievably, there's some teams about to play their 20th game, which would be the 1/3 point of the Major League Baseball season that began a few weeks ago. They are flying through that. And outside the Cardinals and then the hiccup the Marlins had, they've really been okay. They've been able to power their way through that. Cardinals hoping to get going again this weekend. So that's a busy hour straight ahead here on Sports Hotline, but let's get it going with the face-off.
It's time for Famous Dave's Face-Off. Famous Dave's, America's favorite barbecue, offers award-winning, mouth-watering house-smoked barbecue for pickup, curbside, or delivery. Order 3 ways, online at famousdaves.com, through the Famous Dave's app, or call your nearest location in Lincoln, Omaha, or Bellevue. Famous Dave's, locally and veteran-owned.
Let's go. Mano a mano. You, me, right here, right now.
Now, here are your hosts, Josh Hilkeman and Brett Whitty.
That's right, Brett back as the co-host this week. Tim was back for his first appearance in a while last week, and he'll be back again soon. But we're switching it up every week. We don't want you guys to get too comfortable. We want to make sure you're on your toes. And so far, it's been a really close contest pretty much every single week between you guys. 9-8, Ben in the lead is the running score right now. So
I don't know that either of our minds are in a place where this is going to go very well tonight.
I don't know if we made it easy necessarily, but I will say that there are some easier questions in here. So
okay.
I don't know. Brett, you can chime in if you want, if you think they're easy or not. But
it doesn't look easy, guys.
Okay.
Just going to peel that Band-Aid off.
Fair enough. Well, let's
We'll give it our Pat 40 effort tonight.
All right. Love it. We dive in question number 1. Who are the top 4 career tackle leaders in Husker football history? Ben in first.
Barrett Ruud.
Show me Barrett Ruud. Very good. He is number 1 on that list with 432 career tackles. Do you want to pass or play?
I feel like we did this one. No?
Did we?
No, we did not.
I'll play it.
Greg, if you remember doing it, then maybe you know all the answers, but we'll see if Ben can come up with it.
Levante David.
Show me Levante David. He is actually number 4, so you've gotten 1 and 4. You need the 2 middle ones, 2 and 3.
Can you give me the totals?
So Ruud had 432 at number 1. Levante, number 4, he's at 285 career.
How about Mo Berry?
Show me Mo Berry. I looked this up actually because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing him. He's around number 15. He's at like 245, so about 40 short of this. Kind of gets bunched up after this top 4.
Yeah. How about Trev Alberts?
Show me Trev Alberts. Another good yes. He'd be up there in the sack totals, but not in tackles.
Man, okay, and I got to think of guys I just played a ton.
That's a good approach. And Levante, though, what's so impressive about him, he only played 2 seasons and he made it into the top 4. Imagine if he didn't leave.
Imagine if he didn't leave all those tackles on the field where he'd be in those 2 years. Man, this is hard. How about dang. How about Scott Shanley?
Show me Scott Shanley. That's actually a really good guess. I can't remember exactly which place he was in, but I think he's top 10. So
that's it, right? I'm done?
Yep, you're done. So over to Greg for the steal attempt.
I'm kind of in that same era. I'm going to go Carlos Polk.
All right, Carlos Polk for the steal. Incorrect. So the other 2, number 2 and number 3 all-time, Jerry Murtaugh. So he goes back a little ways, 342 for Murtaugh. And then Mike Brown, which is a little bit surprising, late 90s. But 287 for Mike Brown in the number 3 hole. So.
I did run through some safeties in my mind, but I just didn't think they had that many.
Right.
Right. Yep.
So, Ben, you take the first category.
All right, moving on. Question number 2 here. Name the 5 charter members of the Missouri Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Association, which was founded in 1907. All right, Greg.
Nebraska.
Is Nebraska up there? They are. Do you want to pass or play on that one?
I'm going to play.
All right, 4 to get.
Give me Kansas.
All right, show him Kansas. 2 for 2.
It's Missouri Valley, so Missouri's got to be in there, right?
Does Missouri have to be in there? 3 for 3. We're rolling here.
This is where it gets tough.
Yeah, now make it tough.
And this was the predecessor to the Big 6, which was the predecessor to the Big 8, predecessor to the Big 12.
Really? Oh. A little history lesson there.
I got 1 to get?
2.
2 left.
Give me Oklahoma.
All right, is Oklahoma in there? They were first strike.
Big 6, but not.
Okay. Iowa State.
Show me Iowa State. 2 strikes.
K-State.
Do we have Kansas State? We don't. Goes over to Ben. You've 2 to choose from here.
Well, he guessed all the obvious ones.
I mean,
oh boy, I'm trying to even I don't even know which direction to go.
Well, you can. There's 4 directions. You could go north,
That's
south,
true.
east, or west.
Yeah, that is true. 4 directions.
Pick one.
Shoot. Okay, give me Iowa. I don't know.
All right, for the steal and to go up 2-0 is Iowa.
Wow.
Whoa!
Yes.
Iowa was the only other one I could even thought of geographically that would make sense.
I did not think
what
you
were
guys
the other
were
ones?
going to get that.
What was the last
The other one was St. Louis.
So Washington University in St. Louis, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the hard one, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think Iowa was right, but
I
didn't know what big enough schools were else in the area.
When I looked it up earlier, obviously I knew that Nebraska was in there, and Missouri and Kansas did not surprise me, but Iowa surprised me, and obviously I had 0 clue about Washington University in St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I wouldn't have guessed Iowa if Greg didn't say Iowa State. It kind of
Greg with the Iowa State. That was close.
All right. Well, Ben with a 2-0 lead. Greg's going to have to come back here. We move over to Major League Baseball with our next question. Who are the last 3 batting champions in Major League Baseball? And hint, all 3 are from the American League.
Ben.
Okay, Ben in hesitantly.
Mike Trout.
Show me Mike Trout.
Give me Mookie Betts.
Show me Mookie Betts. All right, so he won it in 2018, 2 years ago. Greg, are you going to pass or play?
No, I'll play.
And
in the American League now or when they played?
When they played.
Okay.
And
last 3 American League champions.
The last 3, well, I mean, yes, but they were also the champions of all of baseball. And by the way, I was going to bring this up last week, but I forgot. I want to make sure you guys aren't looking at our text line right now because people are texting us answers.
They are?
So yeah, don't be looking. Don't be.
By the way,
Greg, this is just average, right? Not hits.
I am
correct. Average.
I am protesting an answer last week that I think Tim messed up on, but
oh, Tim.
The question about 110 lost teams since 1950, and I said the Astros. The Astros lost 111 in 2013, so I don't know how he missed that, but. That sways the game. All right, so Mookie Betts was my one guess.
Yeah.
That was a steal. The Astros was a steal.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mookie Betts. Trout's been hurt so much the last couple of years, hasn't he? He's kind of fought some injuries. Give me Whit Merrifield.
Show me Whit Merrifield.
I think he's been the hits leader.
Right,
probably not the batting average then.
All right, so that's 1 strike.
Who has he guessed so far? He's guessed
Mookie Betts and Whit
Mookie,
Merrifield,
okay.
and you guessed Mike Trout, which was incorrect.
DJ LeMahieu.
Show me DJ LeMahieu. That's a good guess. I feel like he was leading at one point in the last couple of years.
I think it would have been last season, I think.
Yeah.
Great guess. Dang it. Oh, we got one strike left.
I know, but the only two to get right, and this is a tough category. So just wait till we get to question number 4. That's when it really gets tough.
God, Brett's always getting hard questions for us. Dang you. Lindor.
Francisco Lindor, is he on the board? No, he's not. So, Ben, you can get the steal here and go up with a commanding 3-0 lead.
Okay.
Can you pull out one of the two names?
I think I might know them both.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go with the sure thing though and say Altuve.
Is Jose Altuve one of the last 3 batting champions? He is. He did it in 2017.
Was the last one Tim Anderson?
And Tim Anderson
last
was the
year?
other one. Yep. You do not get bonus
I know David
points for
Fletcher
that.
led the AL in hits last year, but that's why I asked.
All right. Over to Brett.
Well, I'm not liking the direction we're going here, but on to question number 4 here, Ben, with a chance to sweep. Name the 7 schools that have appeared in the college football playoff one time, but no more than once.
Ben.
All right, Ben.
Washington.
Give me Washington. You got it. They appeared in 2016. Do you want to pass or play? You have 6 to get.
6 to get. I'll play it.
All right.
Michigan State.
Show me at Michigan State. Yep, Spartans are up there in 2015. 2 for 2.
Okay, those are the 2 that I knew off the top of my head.
Yes, sir, I have to think about it.
Georgia.
Do we have Georgia on there? They are. In 2017 was their only appearance.
LSU.
Give me LSU. Got it. Rolling along. 4 for 4. Only 3 left.
I'm surprised there's that many.
I know.
Well, and the question is appearances in a playoff, not playoff games. So, like, some of
Right.
these teams, like LSU, have played in 2 games, but both in the same year.
Same year, right.
The Georgia one surprises me.
Yeah, that they've only been in it once.
God, did they even make it? I don't even think they made it once. Boys, I'm having a hard time even coming up with a guess here. Notre Dame.
All right, Notre Dame. Are they on there? They are. You're doing better than you think. You're 5 for.
I mean, I literally at the last second, they're coming to my mind.
Doesn't even have a strike yet, does he?
No strikes. No 3
strikes.
strikes to have and only 2 guesses.
For a clean sweep, too.
Yeah, this
Of
would
the
be an impressive way to finish it off.
Yeah.
For sure. No pressure.
2 more.
2 more.
Then you can make our work really easy next week if you just sweep love.
Oregon.
All right, give me Oregon. You've got it. Just rolling here. In 2014 was Oregon's 1 year.
How about the team they played, Florida State?
Give me Florida State for the clean sweep and the win.
Wow.
Impressive.
You've got it. That was impressive.
Impressive.
If you told me you had Wikipedia up right now, I'd believe it.
Man, you
I
sweep
gotta-
that category, you pull Iowa for the Missouri Valley.
I
Good
shouldn't have got that.
gosh.
I should not have got that right. I'll
Right.
be the first to admit
Man.
that.
By the way, before we say goodbye to Brett, how about his nice, clean haircut up there? He's
Looking good, Brett. I like the blind, the light shining in the blinds perfectly, and we can
It's
get a good
fantastic.
Look
I can hardly see anything, but I love it. It's great.
at it. Surprised
It's
that
good to be
closet
here,
has
guys.
light.
Thanks, Brett. All right. Thanks, Brett.
See you guys.
All right, when we come back, Lane Grindle, our Major League Baseball insider, will join us. Well, we were just kind of talking before we went on here that some of these teams are about ready to play Game 20. This thing's almost a third of the way over. It's flying by, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. The Brewers specifically are 25% of the way through the season after last night. They lost those 3 games to the Cardinals a couple of weeks ago, but it really is. And Greg, we're a couple of weeks out from the trading deadline already. I mean, it's just wild. It feels like we just kind of dipped our toe in the water, and now you got to make decisions about your roster for the rest of the season, and you got to decide if you're a buyer or a seller. And I think just in general, it's going to be interesting to see who's active and who's not, even if they're in it, because it's just a different year altogether, right?
No doubt. You mentioned the Cardinals. What does baseball do with them? They've played 5 games. Do they try to make that up, or do they just say, play it from here out and your percentage is what goes?
Well, I think that may be where it ends up. They're not saying that yet. I think the desire is to get to 60 games for everybody if you can make it happen. But right now, the goal is just to get them back on the field first. I mean, right now, I think you're looking at 55 games in 46 days that they'll have to play. That's a lot of baseball and not a lot of time. And, you know, you could get a rain out in there, certainly at some point. I mean, there's all sorts of other things that could factor in before it's all said and done for them to get all those games in. So that's going to be challenging to navigate for anybody, obviously, even with an expanded roster. But I think right now the goal is let's get them back on the field. Let's get everybody playing a full schedule again, and then let's see what happens from there.
I know we touched on the Marlins last week. It's been remarkable the success they've had, even though they're down 17 players. I saw something today from Mattingly, Don Mattingly, their manager, who said a lot of their guys are ready to be reinstated, that they're all healthy again, and they're going to get their team back. That's been remarkable, hasn't it, how successful they've been despite losing all those bodies?
Yeah, they've made it work. Now, they've lost 3 in a row coming into tonight, but still, the fact that they've been able to win 7 games, I think, coming into the day today, even after losing all those games, and I'm not talking about losing them on the field, just losing those games, period, and having to be idle for so long and stuck in a hotel in Philadelphia and then just snatching up every single player that was on the waiver wire. I mean, somebody's going to write a book about that someday, most likely. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting story to tell, and I think Don Mattingly, through all of this, has really gained some additional appreciation from people with how he's handled it and how they've kind of found a way to keep moving forward and be competitive in spite of all of it. It really is pretty amazing. It's going to be one of the stories of the year when we look back on it.
Lane Grindle's with us. He's our Major League Baseball insider here on Sports Nightly. The shortened season may make some records look kind of fluky. I saw starting today, Charlie Blackmon of the Rockies was hitting an even 500. I don't think he had a great day today. They played this afternoon, but do you count a 400 season from a guy like that if he ends up that way at the end of September?
No, absolutely not. And I've seen a lot of people kind of flirting around with this and trying to kind of put that out there and test the waters to see what people think of considering that legitimate. That's not legitimate. It's still amazing, and it's still really impressive, but it's not the record. And I don't think anybody in their right mind would recognize that as anything close to what Ted Williams did. It's not going to be close to what George Brett did, in my opinion, because anybody that did what those guys did over 162, so much more impressive than over 60. A lot of guys have unbelievable 60-game stretches. The great seasons, though, need to be measured over 162, and I'm not going to change on that, and I think most of us probably agree on that. I think I'm in the majority on that.
I think you are, too. I know it's early, but the Rockies have been a pretty good early success story. Do you like their team? What do you think of the Rockies?
Yeah, you remember, this is a team 2 years ago that almost won the NL West, played a 163, and then lost to the Brewers, got swept by the Brewers in the NLDS after they beat the Cubs in the wild card. And a lot of those guys are still back. Charlie Blackmon, who we were just talking about, Nolan Arenado is one of the best players in the game, period. Trevor Story is one of the great players we don't talk about enough in the game. So there are some pieces there, and when Daniel Murphy's healthy, he can still hit. So I think they have some pieces. I think they have some talent. It's always the question for them is always the pitching, but Kyle Freeland has some great stuff, and he looks like he's kind of got himself straightened out after having a tough year last year. And you've got guys. I mean, I think that Senzatella is an interesting arm. I think this is an interesting team when it's all said and done, and I'll be curious to see where they end up. I think it's a tough division. I mean, look, the Dodgers are really good. I think the Padres are pretty good. It's a challenging division for them to navigate, but I still like their team, and I wouldn't write them off right now.
You've had a chance to watch in person the Twins over the last couple of days. They've been pretty much everybody's pick to win the AL Central. What have you made of Minnesota for the last couple of days?
Great position players, 1 through 9, really good team. A lot of power, as we know, with Nelson Cruz, and Josh Donaldson is hurt right now, but when he gets back, and Miguel Sano, I mean, you can just keep going down the list. Tons of power. Eddie Rosario has just destroyed the Brewers in this series so far. Even though they split the first 2 games, Rosario hit 2 home runs last night, hit a grand slam. There was only 4 runs that they scored in the win on Monday night. And he was an all-star a couple of years ago. So they have so much talent from that position player group. I'm not sure where they're at on the mound yet in terms of are they an elite team all the way around? I don't know yet. A lot of people have put them in that category. They very well may be. I think they're certainly the favorite in the AL Central. I would have no problem saying that. But are they the Yankees? Are they what the Astros can be when they start winning? Because the Astros will start winning at some point. Are they the A's? I'm not sure. I don't know if their rotation and their bullpen is on the same level as some of those elite teams in baseball. But I think they're right there, and I think there's not a better lineup in baseball, arguably.
Lane, we've certainly been dealing with the fallout here of the Big Ten's announcement yesterday of canceling the season. Obviously, you're there in Milwaukee, not far from Madison, Wisconsin, not far from Chicago, where the Big Ten office is. What kind of how is this thing played up in that part of Big Ten country?
Well, people are disappointed up here. I mean, I think everybody's disappointed. To not have college football would be devastating, I think, for so many people because it's such a big part of your Saturdays in September and October and November. And look, I'm preaching to the choir. I'm on the Husker Sports Network right now. There's nowhere where it's more important than in Lincoln and across the state of Nebraska. So people are very disappointed. Look, it's a different type of culture here in terms of the conference. And when the Big Ten says something, everybody just kind of goes along with it here. That's probably not going to be the case where you're at, and I understand that, and I get that, and I applaud it, to be honest with you. I think it's okay to go against the grain when something is so important to your state and to your kids and to your community and to your university, quite frankly. And that should be a university decision, in my opinion, because there's so much on the line, and I'm talking real-life stuff that's on the line. So most people here they're disappointed, they're sad. Maybe they don't totally agree with the decision, but they're going to accept it. I have a feeling it's going to be, maybe a little bit different in your neck of the woods.
Yeah. All right, Brewers wrapping up a homestand, I think. What do you got coming up?
Road trip. Go to Chicago, take on the Cubs for 4, and then go to Minneapolis to play 3 more with the Twins as well. So nice little road trip coming up for the Brewers here in the immediate horizon. And it actually continues beyond that, but we'll talk again before that.
Very good. All right. Appreciate the time. Have a great week.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Sports Nightly here on a Wednesday night. Greg Sharp, Ben McLaughlin with you. Let's get to the phones in Lincoln. Billy Rod, you're up next. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and make a quick comment on Kevin Warner. The only thing that I heard of repetitively, well, number one, that he didn't give a straight answer on any of the questions that I was given or asked of him, but he kept on going and referring back to uncertainty. Uncertainty this, uncertainty that. Well, there is something that's going to be certain, and that's going to be all the kids' dreams, opportunities, and all those other businesses and everything else that's going to be lost because of what decisions that have just been made. And if you go ahead and tally up all those certain, concrete, evidential, by the future will be the present, and then coming soon the past of evident hurt and loss that will be certain to have been made because of this decision, does that have any chance of becoming larger than the uncertain? And it just is absolutely devastating. I think it pisses a lot of more people off than what they care to say. But I think it all goes back to being it political and make everything hurt as much as possible. Nebraska being a red state, not a blue state. I don't know if that's got anything that, hints more on conspiracy, but I just feel that this is all going down to political, and it first came out with being a hit against Trump. The media took it, and it's gotten way out of control. Everything has gotten way out of control thus far, and now it's a train that you just can't stop. And that's all I got to say.
All right, thanks, Billy Rod. Appreciate the call. Man, a lot there. I do feel like the biggest thing in all this, obviously financially, but the opportunity lost for the kids is something that you hit on there that I think is one of the biggest bummers. Is all these guys that aren't going to be able to fulfill, not just at the collegiate level, high school level, and even the youth level, that are having opportunities taken away from them.
Yeah, and we said this yesterday too. I'm not sure the players' voices were heard enough in this thing, and that may be a new change to college sports in the coming years, is that their voice is going to carry more weight, and it didn't this time, even though it was late. But there was a push by a lot of players to try to save the season, and it's worked in the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12. But it wasn't enough to save it from the Big 10, who I think the Big 10 made up their mind for the most part, Ben, month and a half ago. I think, and go back to June, most of these presidents made their mind up. We're not playing, but they're not closing their campuses down either. And that's where it's really the hypocrisy jumps in there. When they're not shutting down their campuses, they're letting the students come back, jam into dorms, Greek houses, and that stuff, but we're not going to play sports.
Right.
That doesn't sit well with me, and that's what the athletes are saying too. Like, wait, I can go to class, I can go to the library, I can do all this stuff, but I can't go hit a volleyball or go play football.
Or even work out. How about that? Still work out 20 hours a week, but can't play football.
Yeah. Let's go to Grand Island next, and Howard. Good evening, Howard. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Yes, good evening. Appreciate, men, what you're doing, the program. Two comments that I would have is I just wish the commissioner would have given more specifics with regard to the medical concerns. I mean, we all want what's best for the players. Health is obviously the most important, but just not really giving any specifics between 6 days ago and what happened now. So that would be one thing. The other thing, you might have heard Urban Meyer last night say, no way. I'm sitting there thinking, at the collegiate level, you got a situation where last year there were a number of football players that didn't play for their bowl teams, either because of concerns about injuries or getting ready for the pros. The idea of some of the elite players playing in March and April and May, it's DOA. It's not going to happen. So I don't see it happening. So those are my two comments. We'll listen to hear what you have to say.
Thanks, Howard. Appreciate the call. Good comments there as well. And he's right, Greg. I can't imagine a lot of even if there's a spring season somehow. Ohio State kind of addressed this today with Justin Fields. Those elite players, there's no way they play. Why would you? I don't know what about that is appealing to you, especially if you're about to be drafted into the National Football League and make millions of dollars and get away from this amateurism and go to a place where the players' voices are heard. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Matt, on our text line, Matt in Randolph wants to know, will there be a national championship game this year amongst the teams that do play? I don't think we know the answer to that yet. I think if those three conferences go, I could see them going ahead and naming 4 teams, but that's not yet determined. Also, a preview to the Board of Governors recommended today to give everybody their year back of eligibility. That does have to go to a full vote later. That's been one question we've been getting from people. What about eligibility issues? They've said if this was your 5th year, you get a 6th year if you don't play. And if you do play games but don't play 50% of the games that are played with your school, you can get that year back as well. That could really jam up teams' roster sizes. And they're broke as it is if they don't get their TV money this year, so I don't know how that's going to work.
No, I don't either. Yeah, I mean, you're basically doubling. I don't want to say doubling, but you're adding 1 year's worth of athletes to your campus, to your workouts, to your weight room, to your locker room, to equip them, to give them the apparel. Yeah, all that stuff. You're asking a lot.
Let's head to Council Bluffs and Jamison. Good evening, Jamison. Welcome to Sports Nightly.
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there, buddy.
Good deal. Hey, the national media attacking Nebraska honestly is complete and another hypocritical joke because you got Ohio State and Michigan. We're kind of the same thing that Coach Frost is saying, of course. National media went after those, though, but of course Nebraska speaks up and everybody gets ticked off and wants to go after us. Honestly, you guys should look at your glass house before throwing stones at Wilbon and all those other guys, honestly, because they understand tradition and the program of Nebraska, the fans of Nebraska, through every time situation, through the years way back from 1900 all the way to today, Depression, World War, all this stuff. There's been 4 or 5 things Nebraska can count on us. Football, college football on Saturday, raising corn and cattle, and, in Pacific, honestly, Greg, are the 4 main things I would say probably Nebraska is known for. So, I love Coach Frost protecting the Husker program and the Husker football team. And, of course, we're going to protect the volleyball team as well. But, Coach Frost was lived, raised here in Nebraska. Now, comes back home, mends the fences to the wounds of the last other coaches beforehand, has the program and the fan base all together behind each other. And we want to keep going what we've always done, which is play football on Saturdays at Greg and Lincoln.
You bet. Great stuff, Jamison. Thank you. Appreciate the phone call. Jim Harbaugh's statement on Monday came out before Scott Frost. Now, Jim Harbaugh didn't go as far as to say we're going to look to play other places, but he did say, I think we should play. I think maybe one of the biggest differences, Scott Frost was on camera for his stuff. Those other coaches haven't been on camera, right, Ben? It was more impactful because he did have a scheduled press conference that day, so you had actual footage of him saying these things, and I think that was pretty impactful.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%, and it's not just a tweet with a graphic on it. It's not just a quote tweeted by a reporter. There was actual context to it that a lot of reporters didn't care to see. They literally just chose to see the clips that were put out or the quotes that were put out. It didn't really seem like very many of them at all took the time to watch the entire press conference. But, that's just the way they went about it, unfortunately.
On our text line, Brian and Carol says, I know it's a big if, but if football happens in the spring, you're going to have a lot of sports that lose visibility. You could have football, basketball, volleyball, and possibly baseball all competing for TV spots. I feel for these athletes and teams not be able to showcase themselves. Fans aren't going to be able to watch and go to everything. If that all gets jammed up in the spring, that's a fair point. The network could be going crazy starting in January if all these things fly in the same time. It could be really wild.
Yeah, terrific point there. That's Good point.
Yeah. All right. 531-500-4686, the number if you want to dial us up with a comment or question. Take a break. Come back with more of your calls next. Bringing you more choices in brands, locations, and service. Experience the difference. Purchase with confidence. This is Woodhouse. 531-500-4686, the number if you want to be a part of the program here tonight. Back to the Twitter or the text line. Seems to me, this is a good one, Ben, seems to me the commissioner needs to go on the network and explain to the conference football players why it's okay for his son to play this fall, but they cannot. Kevin Warren has a son who's a junior at Mississippi State. The SEC is still a go. As far as I know, and maybe I missed it, his son is not opted out. He has to opt out, right, Ben? I mean, the optics of that, if his son plays, and Kevin Warren's okay with his son playing, but he's prevented over 1,000 Big Ten football players from playing, he can't do that, right? Can't do that.
Not a good look. And what would make that worse is if they let parents of athletes into Starkville to watch him play. So while the Big Ten, his own conference, is watching Mississippi State play Lane Kiffin in the Egg Bowl, he's sitting on the stands in Stark Vegas watching his son play. Wouldn't that be something?
In fact, I'm surprised it didn't happen today. I mean, come on. I mean, you talk. You know what though? As silly and as goofy as all of this has been, I bet he plays. Actually, I can't imagine that he plays. The criticism he's going to get if his son plays and is allowed to play, I mean, the hypocrisy of that is unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I might lose a vein if that happens. Just might blow a gasket of this thing. All right, we're getting NHL playoffs are underway. NBA's, I think, the final week of their regular season before they get to their playoffs. Pretty good time to be a sports fan, right? You got all that going on. Major League Baseball stinks around here with no college football, for us anyway. But this isn't a bad time. At least we're through the drought of nothing happening.
Yeah, it's nice to have baseball on every night, while we're doing our show, and nice to have those things that are kind of, keeping us busy and getting us by. But you better believe that first September, if college football happens, or if even it doesn't happen, that first Saturday, September 5th, is going to feel awfully hollow.
Is it going to be worse if there are conferences playing, do you think? How are you going to feel? Is it going to make you feel worse?
Well, 100%. I mean, we're going to sit there going, that could be us. I could be on the sideline. You could be in a booth. We could be watching Scott Frost on the sideline. We could watch Adrian Martinez take snaps. Instead, we're watching Mr. Warren's kid do all that.
Are you rooting for him? I kind of am. Actually. I kind of want him to play. Is that bad of me to say that?
I don't know what's going to happen.
I'd be happy for those kids if they get the chance to do it, and I'd also kind of look at the Big Ten and go, see, we thought there's people like us who believe it could have been done safely.
Part of the reason why I don't is I know how detrimental it would be to our conference if Nebraska is indeed a part of it in 3 years. The recruiting toll that this will take, the financial toll that this will take. I think Dirk said it in our first hour. I mean, it would set Nebraska in the Big Ten back years if that were the case.
I did reach out to a Nebraska official today. I said, did the team practice today? The answer was no, and they weren't scheduled to. I said, what about tomorrow? And I got back TBA, to be determined. So that's not TBA. To be
announced?
TBD. TBD.
TDB, according to Michael Scott.
TBD. So, so to be determined. So you can't go out there, right? I mean, there's no point. I got asked a couple times today, do I think Nebraska is going to be able to cobble together a schedule? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Nebraska's going to just not necessarily just fall right in line, but they realize it's just too big of an uphill battle to try to piece something together. And you got to ask yourself, is the risk worth the reward, or is the reward worth the risk? Because if you do it, do you jeopardize your status in the Big Ten? I mean, the Big Ten could get vindictive and kick Nebraska to the curb, and then you're out there kind of hanging on your own. I just think it's a tough spot to be in. I was a little bit surprised we didn't see some kind of announcement from Nebraska today, just kind of either reaffirming where they stood or what their plans are kind of moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand on that. I mean, I could see it both ways. But yeah, it's just one thing's for sure. The next week with the fallout with this is going to be really interesting from a national perspective on the Huskers and the Husker program. And whenever football does get back, you better believe this is going to be brought up about every time that Nebraska plays, especially when we get to conference play.
Yeah, it sure is. Although I think quietly a lot of people in the conference don't have a problem in Nebraska saying they wanted to try to play. I really don't. I think if you do, you got other issues. I just think most people would say, I get it. You feel like you had it. Why not play some football games? I mean, it could go back to my first comment. To be criticized for wanting to play is just beyond me. I mean, I think it would be much worse,
especially at the lengths that they have. I mean, just completely out of line.
Good hour. Great to hear from Lane Grindle. As always, our Major League Baseball insider. Ben wiped the floor with me on Face Off. He's been doing that pretty much every week. We got another hour of Sports Island coming up.